they always talk about, oh, we really care about your personal development. We
Right.
really care about your well-being. We love when you guys pursue stuff. We'd really support your stuff. Yeah, we support your stuff as long as it's within the terms of the things that we are okay with.
We support your stuff if it supports our growth.
If it
Like
supports
that's
our
it.
stuff,
Yeah.
why aren't you giving every single minute of your life to us?
All right, welcome back to She's So Sweet. This is a first for us. So I obviously have the privilege and pleasure of having so many wonderful guests on the show. And I always say, listen, every episode I record, every guest I have on could be a series in and of itself, right? Like everybody could probably record 3, 4, 5 episodes. But actually, when I had Tas on last time, we got so down a rabbit hole in our first episode that I was like, there's no way we can stop here. So, this is actually a first in She's So Sweet history where we get to record a part 2 because I just wasn't done. I wasn't done learning. I don't think you're done learning. There's a lot more here. So, Tas, thank you so much. Welcome back.
I'm so excited to be back and dive deeper. I don't think I've ever gone this deep on any podcast or had to have 2 episodes worth, but I could talk through 6 episodes if you let me. So you're going to have to
Listen, we're
buckle
gonna Joe Rogan this. Like, if we got to do a third episode, we do a third episode. Like, listen, he's not the only one that can record for 8 hours
up.
straight.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, very good. Well, listen, where we left off, we're kind of deep diving into the career, but I want to pivot a little bit here because I mean, obviously, you've done a lot of things to get you where you are. I think what I'd love to know before we completely pivot, let's go to how you ended up where you are right now in your current role. Let's just talk about that because
Mhm.
I know there was a bunch of stuff that'll kind of bridge from where we left in our last conversation to this point, but let's pick up here. So, how did you get into this current opportunity that you're in now?
Yeah, I call myself the accidental business owner because it was never my intention. Even though both my parents were kind of entrepreneurial and did their own thing, it was just never a thing that I thought of. I thought I'd always climb the corporate ladder and make my way to CEO, which I guess technically did happen, just not in the way that I expected it to happen. But it started because I was so burnt out in my in house role. And, I had a small team, had these astronomical targets, 45 projects that I'm running, uh, then lost my team and they weren't backfilled. And so here I am doing 3 people's jobs, 8 months pregnant with my second child. And even while I was on maternity leave, I'd set it up in a way that things were still getting done while I was gone for 3 months. And then I come back, everything's, ship's still running. I'm swimming, right? Keeping my head above water, and the annual review period shows up. I have amazing reviews. I mean, I still have the review. So, I got the receipts. I got the receipts, had an amazing year. And my boss, who had at the time, the year prior, was like, "Hey, this next year I want to promote you. Like, you've done so good. And so during the next review cycle, we're going to promote you." I'm like, "Yeah, fine. I'm happy. I'm good, whatever." And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, I wonder whatever happened to that." Because for me, after she said that, I was like, she has my back. We're good. I trust
Hmm.
you. I'm just over here handling my side of the kingdom. Everything's going well. I'm not worried about my growth because I have someone who has my back. So I asked him, like, "Hey, did anything ever happen with that? I'm super excited, and I've worked my ass off this year. Like, what's going
Yeah.
on?" And she looked like I told her mom died. She was mortified. And so at that stage, I was like, "Oh, she has not thought about this at all." And obviously, neither have I. And we've been busy, and she has a huge team to manage. I get it. But what ensued right after wasn't a, "Hey, you know what? I did totally space on it. How about we work on a plan? We can do a mid-year review. Let's like do something, or let me go advocate for you right now." Some accountability, all of that stuff. But what ended up happening was I got a little bit gaslit, where it was, "Oh, you never mentioned it all year, so I didn't think you wanted to get promoted anymore." I'm like, what high performer does not want to get promoted? It was just such a silly thing to me. And at that point, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, thinking, things were just moving and I had progression laid out for me. I was told, like, hey, you can't just expect a promotion after 2 years. I'm like, I didn't expect anything. This was told to me.
Right.
Right. And meanwhile, my peer gets promoted 2 years in a row. So, like, what is going on there? So sometimes I tell people, we love to do the rah rah, like, people are trying to keep women down, but sometimes I feel like women, we are our worst enemies. We do that to each other a lot, right? Yeah.
Oh, Tas. All right, Tas. Can we pause here for a minute? Because I think you're hitting on something that may take this episode somewhere completely where I had not intended it to go, but
Yeah.
I need to pause here because I think there is this notion that like, oh, having a female leader is going to be so much better for me. I'm going to have somebody who I can learn from, I can grow from, who's going to have my back, who understands my struggles. Like there is this misconception that just because you share a gender that it's going to be this harmonious experience. And I have to tell you something, my worst leader I ever had in my career was a woman
Mm-hmm. Same.
because of what you just said. I was gaslit. I was dealing with a narcissist. I took all the blame, none of the credit. Everything was my fault. No matter how hard I worked, no matter what I did, I was met with just objections about how it wasn't good or this or that. And like, and it wasn't obviously that wasn't my reality, right? Because as I'm dealing with my you know, other my peers across other cross functional teams, or I'm dealing with my team, nobody was sharing that sentiment. It was only her. But she made that
Yeah.
so real for me that that became my perception of myself. And that broke me. And then I started performing worse because I had believed that. I believed everything she was saying. So I
Mm-hmm.
just need to pause there because I just think that like we need to just stop assuming that just because someone's the same gender as you that they're going to be more helpful than somebody else, because on the flip side, the best leader I ever had in my career who's ever who saw me, heard me, supported me, who championed me was a man.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that you can't have a wonderful woman, and I'm not saying that all men are horrible, but like I think we need to stop making assumptions about this. I don't know. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts.
Yes. I think we use the gender to kickstart the bond. And then you assume you're a woman, I'm a woman, we've been through the same struggles. This automatically ties us to each other. Also, I think it's very, dependent on the person. I mean, I've had some male bosses and they've been incredible to me, incredible mentors. The best boss I ever had was a woman. Um, but the worst boss I ever had was also a woman. And so, ironically, it wasn't the one that I was talking about that was it. It was one that had a chip on her shoulder about being a woman, about being pushed down. So she was extremely hard on the women on her team and
Well,
said that
that's
she
a
was keeping.
generational thing. All
Yeah.
right. So, like, let's pause there for a second because I think that's a great point. And I actually had a start of a conversation like this with another guest. But what we have found is that the women who were the first to come up in the ranks, right? That the ones
Hmm.
that like they were the one leading the charge for us, right? They were the first directors and VPs that had to navigate the toxic work environments
Yes.
where they were the only one, like they were the ones breaking the glass ceiling. You would think that they would have a hand out, they have a heel out. They are
Hmm.
ready to like because they had to go through it. They believe that you have to as well, which
Yeah.
is crazy to me.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, well, I had to have really thick skin coming up. So I'm going to teach you how to have thick skin and put you through this like obstacle course where I'm going to teach you to do that. Something that I kind of took with me too is, I don't know if I want to be that kind of leader. And most times people will say, okay, well, you know, you have to be a certain way in order to succeed. You got to have thick skin. You got to play business. You gotta, like step on a few people to get ahead. You have to work 50, 60 hours to make the kind of money that you think you deserve. You got to put in the work. And I think that's all of that is a fallacy. And so something that I've just taken as part of my life, like I always tell people growing up, I was bullied a lot for being different and loud and going against the grain. But now in my 30s, as a business owner, I'm admired for being different and loud and disobedient and all of those things. But people are always surprised because they're like, wait, you work 3 days a week? I'm like, yep. And I made more than I did in my in-house role. It is possible. One of my direct reports, she's one of my best friends. You can be a leader, you can be friendly, you can lift people up, and it's not going to weigh you down from, you know, climbing up that escalator as well. So I always look at it as like a Starbucks line. I'm buying coffee for the person behind me, and that just makes someone's entire day. Why not? Why not? Why do we have to choose between I can be successful and an awful person or you know what I mean? Or be kind and poor. Like that it doesn't have to go hand
Yeah.
in hand, you know?
Okay. Well, I didn't mean to completely segue you, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to go on that little tangent. Okay, so let's go back. You have this gaslighting
Yes.
boss tells you
Um
this. What happened?
so she tells me all of this. And at that point I realized, you know what? I will take some accountability in this situation that I did not advocate for myself as much as I should have the last year, even though I was having a baby, doing 45 projects, working 3 jobs. Fine, I'll take some accountability that I didn't bring it up and make sure that I reminded her because that was one of the things, right? You always have to make sure you're advocating for yourself because nobody else is going to do that. And I will continue to tell every woman that, and my daughter and my son, everybody, right? So full responsibility there. At the same time, all my direct report had to do, my first conversation with her was, where do you want to where do you want to go? What do you want to be when you grow up? I would love to get promoted. I'm really bad at this one thing. What do I need to do, to get there next year? I'm like, cool. And I took it upon myself as part of my goals to help her get to hers. So I feel like a real leader is going to do that if they actually have your best interest at heart and they're not just trying to play the game and, kind of sidestep and sideline. So again, I feel like you have a choice to be that way and you're just choosing not to for whatever reason. After she decided or we had that little riff and we've had a really great relationship, 2.5 years, amazing relationship. Um, but it went sour after that. And I always tell people this too, which is the real test of a relationship is not how things are going when things are good. It's how things are going when they're bad, right? Can it still be good when it's bad? Can you still wade through the waters? Can you still work through it? Is there mutual understanding and respect? And that's when you really find out is when there's like, you know, a pressure test that's happening. Is it going to be a diamond or is it just going to be a bunch of sand at the end of it? So we did not pass the pressure test. So at that point, we kind of separated more emotionally from the process. And I told myself, I'm like, you know what? I've sacrificed a lot of time with my kids. There were many nights I was on the phone with her while I'm giving my kids a bath with one hand, while they were crying for my attention that I didn't give them. Lots of nights that I worked right after I put the kids down. Lots of weekends where I worked to catch up on stuff because I was in meetings all day. And I just realized, you know what? I am going to set a boundary. And this is where things go terribly wrong if you are working within a company is if you decide to set a boundary. Maybe from the beginning you'd have a little more success if you walked in, you're like, "Hey, I'm just this kind of person. These are my boundaries." I think you have better success with that. But if you're a person who was very much the yes man, did everything, went above and beyond, and then you set a boundary,
Mm-mm.
it's the beginning of the end. It is the beginning of the end. So I set a boundary and I said, listen, I'm going to work. When I do, I will finish all my stuff. But during the hours that I'm not working, which is completely reasonable, I will do something for myself. It was a passion project. And I was trying to think of what I would be passionate doing. I wanted to start a parenting podcast because my daughter is a very sensitive child. No medical diagnosis, just sensitive. And I'm like, there's not a lot of resources for parents out there. Maybe I'll be that resource, talk about my experiences, bring on experts, things like that. And I wrote out like 70 episode topics, scripted out the first two. I mean, I did all the work and I left the marketing part to the end because I'm like, I'm a career marketer. How hard could it be to market a podcast? Turns out it's very hard. Um, so towards the end of it, when I got to the marketing part, there was a line. I kept reading a bunch of articles, and one of them said, well, if you have a podcast and you don't really have an audience, it's like you're inviting everybody to this house party. They don't know who you are. They're not coming over to your house. You have to go mingle where these people that you want to come to your house. You got to go hang out with them, make some friends. And guess what? You're going to have a raging party if everybody knows you and they like you and they want to hang out with you more. And I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. So it talked about growing organically. And so I was like, okay. So I went to Twitter, and on Twitter, I had like 1.5 followers. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to start writing on Twitter and talking to the void. Okay, we're not doing that. Then uh, I went to LinkedIn and I had 1,200 connections. I'm like, it'd be kind of weird if I started out with like parenting stuff out of nowhere. People are gonna be like, ma'am, professional network, are you okay? Is everything good at
Yeah.
home? Um, so I was like, okay, let me just test this organic growth thing, right? Because I've always been a paid marketing person, like everything's demand gen,
Yep.
you know, digital website, paid ads, stuff like that. Came to LinkedIn, started writing more personal development stuff, just kind of testing out formats, what people like, what people are responding to. Obviously, I'm connected to a lot of marketers because that's been my career. And they're like, dude, why aren't you writing about marketing? I'm like, oh, I'm so burnt out. I don't know if I want to write about marketing. Slowly started writing about marketing. And the unintentional, unexpected side effect of that was that I started meeting a lot of people I would have never met otherwise. I ended up in the same room as like the head of digital at SEMrush, just like things like that. And she's actually referred business to me since. And so just things like that, that just slowly started happening. And then I wrote something and it got picked up by LinkedIn News and they distributed it. And I'm like, dang, this is crazy. And then people started reaching out for jobs and reaching out for consulting work. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, oh, people can actually make money doing this. I had no idea. But I was still employed full time. I still had a full plate. There was no way I could take on any kind of side work. It
Yep.
was also like not in my contract and stuff, my employment contract. But meanwhile, my company did not like that this was going on because they were like, okay, she's not giving it her all, even though I was doing it not during work hours, right?
Right.
Their silence spoke more than they ever did, where, we'd have team meetings, my posts get picked up, my PR, like our head of PR is like, oh my God, shout out to Tas. She got the stuff picked up. That's such great press for us, whatever. And my leaders would be mum during the call. And so that's when I realized I'm like, they always talk about, oh, we really care about your personal development. We
Right.
really care about your well being. We love when you guys pursue stuff. We'd really support your stuff. Yeah, we support your stuff as long as it's within the terms of the things that we are okay with.
We support your stuff if it supports our growth.
If it
Like
supports
that's
our
it.
stuff,
Yeah.
why aren't you giving every single minute of your life to us? So I kind of already knew like they weren't feeling great about it. Cool. Second round of layoffs come in because the company wasn't doing well. And they got rid of a lot of director level management. And it was funny because the first round of layoffs, I knew that it was coming because we were pre-warned. But when I wasn't warned about the second one and I got tipped off from another coworker, I was like, yeah, I'm on that list, and they do the friend thing, like, no, no, I'm sure you're not. I'm like,
But they have to,
no,
right?
no,
A
no,
good
no, from
friend
a
will
business.
always try to
Yeah,
reassure you that you're not on
yeah.
it.
I'm like, no, no, no. This is not one of those instances where you tell me like, no, Tas, you look great today. It's not like that. I know because this is just how business works.
Yeah.
And if I were them, I would get rid of me too, because in their mind, I am not a team player
You're
and
not giving it your all
I'm not
anymore.
going above and beyond anymore. I'm getting my work done, but I'm not licking the boots anymore, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that happened, and I got 7 weeks of severance. I was relieved when it happened, and that's all you need to know to tell you when something is like the right thing is like
Yep.
you see it come to an end and you're like, wow, I actually feel pretty good, which is weird. I took a week off, and right after that I put it on LinkedIn. I said, hey, I'm going out on my own and I'm going to do this, and I never looked back. And that was July 2023, so coming up on 2 years of doing that. And so unintentional business owner, did that, came out on my own, got a few gigs, and then the big moment was really like niching down into one specific problem, which was these like campaign landing pages for
Yeah.
B2B. And that's when I saw revenue growth, worked with some big companies, things like that. So I always tell people, I'm like, when you come out, you try to do frack this, frack that, unless you already have a really established network, that can be really hard to keep pipeline sustained. You also don't want to feel like you're working 3 full-time jobs. You know what I mean? So niche down on a problem, create a process, and then just go ham marketing the problem, the process. So yeah.
I love that. The She's So Sweet podcast is brought to you by Client Success. Client Success is an all in one customer success platform to help post sale implementation and success teams manage customers from new to renew. Through an industry leading platform approach, Client Success gives businesses an in depth view into customer health, product usage trends, along with churn and risk data so that your team can not only retain customers, but help them grow as well. Whether it's managing customer onboarding workflows in shared portals, building custom health scores, tracking sentiment with NPS surveys, or doing more with less through AI and automations, Client Success gives customer success professionals a true one-stop platform to manage all aspects of the customer journey. To learn more about the industry's fastest to implement customer success platform, visit www.clientsuccess.com. That's Client Success. Simple, powerful customer success. I love when you talk about your success came from the moment you decided to narrow down, right? I
Yeah.
think everyone is so hyper fixated on like having the largest TAM possible. And
Yes.
so for people that are less familiar with that, total addressable market is what we're referring to, which means like we want the biggest pool of opportunity.
Yes.
But to your point, that wasn't serving you well, right? And the minute
No.
you actually got very clear on a one specific problem, that's
Mhm.
when the floodgates opened for you. So let's talk
Yes.
about that for a minute, because I think that that's really smart business advice. And I think about that not only from you trying to find your niche as a business owner, but also as people who are trying to figure out, how do I build my brand, right? Like they
Mhm.
want to be the expert in something so broad and so generic, where it's like, yeah, then you're competing with everybody,
Yes,
right? Like,
exactly.
who am I and what makes me unique so that I
Yeah.
can stand out? So let's talk about kind of your evolution on that, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea as much as I would as much
Okay,
as I
that's
would
great.
like
That's fine.
to as much as I would like to take credit. I've had some
But
really
your
great.
success, it wasn't your idea, but it was your
It was
success.
my success, but it wasn't my idea to do the narrowing thing. So I was lucky enough to meet a few really key people during my LinkedIn journey, a couple of marketers who were kind of ahead of me in that Starbucks line. And then they bought the coffee for me behind. And so I give back and do that as well. But one very smart marketer, I mention him in every podcast. So I'm actually just not going to mention his name because he's probably sick of it. But met him and they kind of did that. He and his partner narrowed down into like just doing home pages. And I'm like, what? That is insane. And just doing home pages, they're like at $1.2 million in revenue just from doing one deliverable. And at first, I wasn't completely bought into the idea. So even when I narrowed down, I was using it as kind of a intro offer, still using it to then upsell them into more like fractional long-term stuff. But then what I realized was, well, I did it more scientifically. I logged my time with everything. And at the end of the first year, I looked at my time and I said, I get more uh, value for my time and the money from doing landing pages because it's the same process. I do it quicker. I've iterated, I've done the reps. So I know the mistakes and I'm getting better at that. The fractional stuff is a lot of like meetings here, meetings there. Oh, can you do an email? Can you pull this report? It's just a bunch of like random acts of marketing that's really hard to streamline or even hire for in the future. And then I looked at my time and I was like, dang, the ROI here is just, it's so glaringly obvious. And so this is the first year in 2025 where I'm only doing landing page work. I killed all the fractional consulting gigs and went all in on it because I'm like, okay, I kind of did that. I tested the theory out. I didn't go all in at the beginning. I just kind of saw, but then the numbers kind of showed themselves. And that's kind of where we're standing. So doing that, now just the landing page thing, but also it made my content so much more focused because here I am with landing pages and you're thinking, well, how many things could you write about landing pages? Girl, I'm going on a year and a half and I'm still not out of ideas to talk about landing pages and different components, right? Still talking about that, but I was able to be a lot more focused with every single thing that came out of the business then. So, all my branding, the messaging on my LinkedIn profile is like, I'm the landing page person, right? Instead of like, I do everything, I'm the landing page person. Um, Also, I put together like a resource hub, all landing page content that I can give away. On the roadmap is like a micro newsletter about landing pages, one tip a week that you can apply to your landing pages. I mean, it's just like a never ending cycle of stuff. And now the brand has become like this unhinged purple landing page lady on LinkedIn. But it also gives a lot of podcasts. I mean, this is one of the few where we're kind of talking about my whole journey. But most podcasts that come to me are all about like, oh my gosh, we'd love to have a landing page expert, come talk on this marketing podcast. So 32 podcasts later, right? That's what happens, this like little snowball effect of becoming the expert in solving this one specific problem.
I
It's
love
been really
that.
beneficial. Yeah. But
I
revenue,
love that.
numbers wise, it's tripled revenue. So,
That's
you know,
crazy. So obviously
yeah,
it's proven, you've
yeah,
found that it works. Okay. Now, let's flip it on its head because obviously you've built yourself a presence too in social media,
yes,
right? And so we'll focus on LinkedIn because I think that's a lot of where my listeners are hanging out.
yeah.
So we'll use that. How do you apply that same philosophy to creating your brand? Because I
Mm,
feel like that's something that everyone is hearing about now, right? More than ever is like you have to have a brand, you have to be branding yourself, your LinkedIn presence, like everybody in my feed is talking about that, right?
yeah.
Be a content creator, create a brand, focus in. How do you take what you've applied in your business and think about offering advice to folks who are trying to figure out who they are and how they should brand themselves?
Hmm. Um, I mean, it's really hard because for me, I my blessing and my curse was that I've always been a little bit different, right? Like I'm half Indian, half Thai. I was a foreigner in both countries. So in each country, I looked different from everybody else. Then I moved to the US, ultimate foreigner, right? So everyone has some piece of their story that kind of makes them unique or different, whatever that is. So for me, people know me for a couple of things. Yes, the landing page stuff, that's kind of the seriousness of my business. But then one of my favorite things to do is kind of like troll people on LinkedIn. So I will comment on some people's posts and I'll say something funny, or it's almost like I'm seeing a friend at a bar and I pass by them and I make a little joke. But that's my personality and people aren't expecting that because they're on a professional social media website and they're like, we got to be like disrupting, the tech stack and revolutionizing the process or whatever, right? I never talk like that.
Yeah.
So even in my posts and what I'm writing about, like there are thousands of landing page people on there. What makes Tas so different from other landing page people? If you look at my content, you're going to notice like in between a really serious post, there's going to be like a Kendrick Lamar reference. Okay. Or like yesterday, my post said something about 50 Cent, so just like things like that, where you're inserting things that are also part of your personality and someone knows, oh, there's a human sitting back there, someone who's a little bit different. And so I classify my genre as like edutainment. So it's educational, but it's also kind of entertaining. And I want people to either walk away with a smile or walk away with something actionable that they can take. So if you are trying to do a brand, yeah, sure, choose your colors, choose your problem, all of these things. But there has to be something that's defining and a little bit different about you. Not better. You don't need to be the best landing page person out there. I don't even know if I am. I'm probably not, honestly. Um, which is fine. I'm fine with that. But I am going to be the most different and the one that basically creates some mind share in a buyer. So someone listening right now may not ever even think of landing pages as a problem they have right now. 2 years from now, they're in a job. They're like, oh my God, I'm trying to make this work. And I don't know if I'm compliant with this, like with the platforms. Why is it not performing? I don't get it. I don't have time to figure it out. Wait, isn't there a purple landing page lady that I've seen floating around? Maybe I can ask her. That's kind of the thing, is like you can't measure brand. It's your reputation that you're building over
Yeah.
time. And what do you want to be known for? And why are you different? That is like kind of the big thing. So for me, I've loved 2000s hip hop since I was a child. Like, I still remember at 13 years old sneaking into what we would call a day club. So a lot of a lot of kids had curfews, so they actually opened clubs during the daytime, and people would skip school and go to these clubs. And I still remember standing in front of the subwoofers because I just didn't know where to stand. It was my first time. And then All Eyes on Me by Tupac came on, and I felt it vibrate through my chest. And I've been hooked ever since. I just sent some friends a video of me leaving the daycare parking lot today, and I'm blasting this rap song called Rover.
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna have to challenge you there
yeah,
though. So we don't have a huge age gap, but I'm in my 40s. I think you referenced that you're in your late 30s, so we definitely have a couple years.
yeah,
Um, I'm gonna challenge you and tell you that 90s rap or 90s R&B even better than 2000s. So we could sit here and
yeah.
debate that for
Oh, I mean,
days, but
I
like
I listen
my
to all
husband and
90s stuff
I,
too. Yeah.
we are like when we first met, we one of our biggest connections was how eclectic our music taste was, but
Uh-huh.
we had such a strong affinity towards like 90s R&B. I mean,
Yes.
I kid you not, me and my husband still will put on Jodeci and dance in the kitchen. Like
Yes.
Tevin Campbell comes on, you can't talk to me. Like I'm so dialed in. Like I'm like I need that's my music. And so it's so funny that you say that because I think when you have your type of music that you just like feel in your soul, and my husband, I say this to my daughter all the time, I'm like you can like all the music, but there is certain music that like you feel in a way that you cannot explain that will stay with you forever. Forever. It's not a phase. It's not something you like
Yes,
now. It's
exactly.
like you will like it forever. If it ever
Yeah.
comes on at any stage in your life, you will know every single word. You will sing it. You will stop what you're doing and just
Yes.
be present in that 5 minute period.
Yes, it's like it's so funny because my first album I ever bought with my own money was like 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying, and my favorite my favorite track on, which is so insane. Like, I grew up in India, so everyone always finds it so fascinating. They're like, this little Indian girl with her first money, like rupees ever, went
I
and
loved you
bought
before. I
50
love you more now. So
And so 21 Questions is my song. It is the song that I will never skip if it comes up on my Spotify. It is like, that is my favorite song ever. And it was like my crush at the time, and it was our song. And it's like, yeah, I'm 35 years old. It is not a phase. Okay. The phase is, there's no phase.
right. That's my
Yeah.
point. Is like there's some
Yeah.
music that will come and go. There's definitely music
Yeah.
that I've heard that I liked, I enjoyed in the moment, fleeting.
Yes.
But my you give me my 90s R&B or anything Mariah Carey because to me
Oh,
she
yeah.
transcends every decade. That is
Yeah.
my girl. I was raised on Mariah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love her as much. But yeah, you give me 90s R&B and it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I got to stop. I have to stop. I have to give presence to it. It's amazing. Okay. All right. Because this isn't a music podcast. I think everyone's probably annoyed already. How long we just spent on that topic. Okay. So, what I do want to talk one more thing about, and then we'll get off the LinkedIn topic, but I do want to hit on this because it comes up all the time. There is a great debate on LinkedIn on personal content. And you have the camp of
Mm.
people who are like, LinkedIn is becoming Facebook and it's so cringe. And like, why is everyone posting pictures of themselves? And I want to be like, the reason why they're posting pictures of themselves because the engagement is higher when there is a picture. So they're just playing the algorithm. So don't blame us, blame LinkedIn. But
Mhm.
we won't go down that rabbit hole. What is your take on personal blended with professional content from people that are actively posting on LinkedIn?
Um, So I actually don't have a super strong opinion on that. I think that the biggest thing is, how monotoned are you? Are you using it as a bait, and is that all you're doing? Is, I'm going to post the selfie of me in a precarious position and then like give marketing advice. We're like, girl, we know what you're doing. Okay. Listen. We know what you're nurturing us for. Okay. Listen. Um, but so I do post personal stuff. I posted about like, oh, here's all the metrics I hit on my business, and my biggest obstacle right now is my 3-year-old is just like refusing to potty train. So you can mix in stuff about your personal life and your business. And people like that because they like that human element of like, oh, there's this landing page lady. She's really good at landing pages, but she also likes rap music. Okay, cool. That's kind of the persona. If all I did was post selfies just to get attention, like, yeah, that stuff probably gets old. So I always tell people it's not about personal or not. You want to mix the formatting up. I know successful people who would do like, okay, like this week, I posted just a quote from this reading of an Ask Polly article that I thought was just like so powerful for women and has nothing to do with landing pages, nothing to do with rap music. But I'm like, you know what? This potentially could help somebody. And it had me shook. And I just think it deserves to have a place in there. Um, Sometimes I'll just post a meme because I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious on Instagram. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn, but it's going to be something like, and I'm not strategic about it. So I'm going to be like, okay, 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, I'm putting landing page content out. And then the other times I might put something out about like the business and how I'm growing it, or I put something out about my kids. Or, I mean, I think I've only ever done a selfie like once or twice. And that's like I'm wearing swag that someone sent me. And I'm like, oh, check this out. We're not marketers, whatever. Their t shirt and stuff. So every once in a while, but mostly it's like educational, entertainment, some personal stuff in there because people want to see like humans in there. But there's a new trend on LinkedIn now, which I don't know if people have noticed, but it's called weird LinkedIn. And weird LinkedIn is like almost tweet style content. So it's 1 or 2 liners, very zing zing, all lowercase. Nick Power, shout out to him. He's one of the guys like who's kind of spearheading this movement. And people have mixed feelings on that. They're like, I came here to learn. This is diluting the feed. But there are other people who are like, I'm so burnt out. I'm so over it. This is so nice and refreshing to have something that's a little bit different. So for me, I'm like, focus more on being you and doing it in different formats. Um, and don't overthink the like selfie or not. Just don't be the one trick pony. I think that's where we start to like, okay, we get it. We get it. So yeah,
Okay.
that's my opinion.
I love and respect everyone's position on this. I just feel like it's something that I read a lot about, and I feel like there's a lot of content creators who continue to create their content. And I think it's fantastic, but now have become very defensive of the camp of
Mm,
people who are like, this isn't how you should use it. Listen, at the end of the day, it's social media, right? Like it's personal,
yeah,
which means you can use it however you see fit.
yeah, free coun
And people
oh,
can choose
free-ish
to
country, yeah,
engage or not engage,
mhm,
right? So, as a consumer of content, you don't need to stop. You don't need to give it energy and like
yeah,
rant about how you hate this. Like, you
yeah,
can keep scrolling. You
yeah,
can say, I don't want to see more of this in my feed. There is a little
yeah,
button there as well. So, for
yes,
the people out there who are just complaining, I'm
yeah,
sure that you're complaining about a lot of things in life. I'm just going to say that. Like, if
yeah,
you're complaining about LinkedIn content, you're probably annoyed about a bunch of stuff, which is like, you should go talk
yeah,
to somebody about that. You don't have to engage with it. Like,
yep,
it's personal. Let people just be and use their social platforms how they want to. If they're not hurting you, if they're not doing anything bad, they're not putting anything bad out there, let them live. I just like,
yeah.
the space that it's taking up right now on this debate, I'm like, this
I
isn't
mean,
debatable.
and the algorithm's forever changing, and I don't see a lot of selfies on my feed. And I think that is a direct correlation to like I don't interact with a lot of
I
them.
was just gonna
So
say,
you
it's
it will
probably
continue to
because of
show
what
you. Yeah,
you're engaging with.
it will show you content, more content like you're engaging with, more people like the people you like and engage with. So I don't see a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, if I don't like something, there's a quick unfollow button, and that's okay. You want people to choose who they are and aren't for. I'm not for everybody. People probably don't want to see my unhinged comments on there. So I'm like, cool, that's good. I only want my people around me anyway. I don't want people around me who are going to hate and do those things. But it's very much a situation where like live and let live. That's what they're doing. They are free and able to do so. It's none of your business. Keep scrolling on by if you don't like it, right? Like what does mom say? If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Oh, all right, I love that. That was refreshing. Okay, we're gonna get back on track for a little bit more. So obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about your journey, which hit on the obstacles that you had to face, right? Like, and you highlighted so many of those throughout the way, and I love that. Let's reflect really quickly though, because we did pause for a moment earlier in this episode to talk about women and female leaders and the experiences that we've had there, but there are a lot of women who are doing a lot to empower women, right? And
Mhm.
to your point, take the coffee, buy the coffee at Starbucks, buy it for somebody, make their day. So there's a lot that of good that's being done. Share with me, how are you empowering other women?
Oh. First, I don't see it's hard for me to just do it for women, so I'm not gonna say that I only do it for them. But in general, one of the things I have done since the beginning is I talk to people even if there's no agenda or there's nothing in it for me. And maybe that's the extrovert in me and I just like helping people. It got to the point in the beginning where it was like, oh, I would look at my calendar because I track my time and I'm like, wow, I'm on like 8 to 10 networking calls and I only work 3 days a week. Like I can't, I'm not gonna have time for like actual work. So I did set a boundary there where I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna set a rule for myself. I have 3 networking calls a week and I'm going to take them regardless of whether I ever talk to this person again, talk to them in the future. Will they be a customer? Don't care about that. These are humans. Everybody's lost or needs some support regarding something. And I've just always been taught to treat other people like people. And so I don't care who you are, where you're from, all of those things. I've talked to people, but the byproduct of that was people just showing up to support regardless. So they're like, dang, she gave me time of day when nobody else did. And they show up for you. And so I read this book a long time ago, referred to me by my favorite boss ever. And it's called The Go Giver and by Bob Berg and his partner. I can't remember the partner's name, but Bob Berg is hilarious because if you tag him on LinkedIn, he will respond. It's like it was such
See,
an
I love
aha.
people like that.
It was such an aha moment for me. It was one of those moments where I was like, "Oh my god, this is one of my favorite books. You guys should read it." And I just tagged him. Oh, he came in. He's like, "Tas, thank you so much. I'm so glad you love the
Love
book."
that.
Oh my gosh, just
Love
such a like
that.
fangirl moment. I was
Love
just,
that.
but I would tell people read that book because basically the whole thing is about how these like really wealthy people got to where they were just by being in service of others, even if it never benefited them.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to be the one that always has an agenda when I'm talking to someone. Like, I don't want to feel icky about that. I want to buy the Starbucks uh, for the person in line next to me. So that is something I will always do, especially also with women. Obviously, I never turn them down. And when I employ, I always try to employ with, uh, with giving women opportunities to grow and do those things themselves and basically telling them and showing them that it's okay to have a voice, to be loud, to not be obedient, to not be okay with certain things. Like you can be nice and still set boundaries. You can be assertive without being a bitch. Like, there are those things where you don't have to compromise your values and who you are and still be successful and still be kind and still be nurturing and not always have to be one or the other. So we're already walking contradictions and I want to make sure that we know that we can be all of it if we choose to.
I love that, and it almost is the perfect answer to my last question that I'll ask before we wrap up. So I'm like, do I ask the question? Because we could almost end on that. Like that was beautiful. But I will go and ask the question. So before we wrap up today, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away with them? Right? You shared your entire journey, start to finish. We kind of followed along. So much growth, so much learning. And I mean, what's one piece of advice you feel like throughout all of that that people should really take with them?
I think something that we're taught is to not trust ourselves and not trust our gut or to rationalize every single decision. And sometimes your gut exists because it is like this innate biological response to a fight or flight moment that's going to tell you, yes, this is a safe choice. This is a good choice. And sometimes, and I think it's more true for women than for men, um, we backtrack on that because we've had conflicting voices our whole lives, right? Conflicting lessons. We always have to sit in a certain way. We always have to speak a certain way. We have to be kind, right? All of those things. And so sometimes I'm like, I have not listened to my gut or silenced it because I'm like, no, this is probably the right thing to do because these 100 people told me that it was the right thing to do. And ultimately, I'm the person living it. And what ends up happening is I'm the person who suffers the consequences of that. So when I look back and I think about the decisions I made based on my gut, and then the ones that I made even when it told me not to, not trusting myself, I think that was like kind of a big eye-opening moment for me, that whenever I didn't trust my gut, that's when it got me into trouble. Second, I also think that it's okay to ask for help. The last 3 years I've gone to therapy, and like I've come out the other side. Like I went in with like specific environmental circumstantial issues, and I just talked to my therapist last time and I said, you know what? The unexpected, unintentional side effect of doing therapy the last 3 years, and yes, sorting out all the issues and stuff, is that I've rebuilt and regained myself without knowing. All that self-esteem was built up, the self-confidence, all of those things. So ask for help, process it with someone else, rebuild it, trust yourself to make the right decisions, because you already know, so you don't need the validation from someone else.
Man, okay. I think that is an amazing way to wrap this up. And I think it so beautifully encompasses all of our learnings from your entire journey. So, Tas, thank you so much for spending not 1, but 2 hours with me to record your
Yes.
story. I really hope that you had as much fun as I did. I learned so much. I think I'm going to send you over like 3 of my favorite 90s R&B hip hop songs. And I want you to send me
Yes.
3 of your favorite songs. And I want us to really start and reflect on like,
Yeah.
can we agree that all of this music is just great?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I'm going to send you my task playlist on Spotify. It's actually public. So if any of you want it, just look for TAS, and there's about
I
568 songs from like 2014 onward that I've just been adding to this through every phase of my life, like every
Uh,
single phase.
I would never share my playlist with anybody because I am so mortified that if anyone actually found the hodgepodge of songs, because
Oh, yeah.
I'm so bad at like organizing my
Yeah.
preferences. So I have one playlist. No, that's a lie. I have like 4, but one that I actually add to,
Yeah.
and it's my running playlist, and it has everything from like country to Celine Dion to
Yeah.
orchestra. Like, I mean, just like all the way to like 90s rap to like, I mean, you name it, it's on there. Like there
Yeah.
is no music that like there's house music and techno, like
Yeah.
it goes all over the place. So I'd be a little embarrassed if somebody actually saw it because they'd be like, who are you?
Yeah. Well, no,
uh,
that's what
all
makes
right,
it
well,
human. So,
I know. All right. So we're gonna find your playlist. All right. So Tas, thank you so much for everyone who's
thank you.
listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and our previous episode, please rate, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, connect with us both on LinkedIn. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Hi, guys. I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays, of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.